Hey, hello friends. My name's Dan. This is, I don't know if you can see this in this dark room, Daily Art Adventure number, whoops, I already wiped it off, 553. And continuing with the final edit layers on this big painting. All right, let me get right into some of the issues I'm having right now. I got up my yardstick and my long straight edge and tested my perspective lines. And down here at the bottom of the painting, they're doing quite well. Up at the top of the painting, however, something has gone seriously wrong. Hang on just a second. Let me lower you guys down so you can sort of peek up under that garage door a little bit. Does that work better? Can you see a little bit more now? Hang on. Oh yeah, you can. All right, so, well, here's an interesting point, first of all. Oh, no, let me back up. Other interesting points. Before I get into the troubles, after I left you yesterday, after I finished broadcasting, I still worked on it a good bit. And this part of the painting is coming along quite well, very perhaps even close to finished, other than the final glazes I'll put on it later. Let me point out one little detail that I'm quite happy with. This is a trick that I stumbled on some time ago. You see there's a figure, a man walking across the road here. And I was struggling with what color to make him. I finally ended up doing this trick where I've got to put something in. The man is really important, I feel like, in the feel of this scene, in spite of the fact that it looks like he's about to get run over. But as I said yesterday, this vehicle must be moving very slowly because he's not running. But I made him almost the same exact color as the background so that he doesn't jump out, because I don't want him to jump out visually. It's almost, in fact, as if I want the viewers to only see him on second glance, if you will. All right, but I'm pretty happy with this car, happy with this guy on the bench, happy with these two go lights. This area right here, I did late yesterday, like 10:30 at night, and I feel like I might have overdone, and the drawing needs a little tweaking, but that might be a little bit overly drawn. And if so, I'll fix that. This Aspen sign, I'm just giving a review of some of the stuff I did yesterday. As you can see, I had it all done, then realized the letters were not lined up right, so it's in the midst of being redone. No problem there. But let me now get back to the issue I started talking about, and that is the perspective of these windows up here. Now, I'm really not sure how this happened, other than carelessness and just lack of general intelligence. Because when I first drew out the drawing here, I was fairly careful to make sure that these lines were accurate, but somewhere along the way, they have fallen into inaccuracy. So I'm going to take some steps toward correcting them, but I've got to tell you right off the bat, I'm a little bit tentative. That is to say, I'm not positive that I'm going to correct these all the way. Here's why. There is such a thing as mathematical precision when it comes to perspective, linear perspective. There is such a thing as being correct, of course. But sometimes what is correct looks weird. Now, especially, and this is actually not mathematically correct, but if this part of the scene is too far outside the range of the lens of our viewer, that is, if we were taking a picture with a camera, it may be, if we took an extreme wide, if we had to use very wide angle lens to get this, then this would all be distorted the way a wide angle lens distorts things. It'd be curving one way or the other. I don't even want to bother to try to figure out which way it'd be curving. Just, you know what I mean? A wide angle lens makes everything curve. And there's, again, a mathematical formula for all that. And it may be that this part of my drawing is just a little too far outside, in which case it is actually appropriate to cheat the system, to cheat the mathematics. But I'm not going to assume that is the case. And how will I know if in fact it's too far outside the range of the normal lens? How will I know that it would only be picked up, if you will, by an extreme wide angle lens? The answer is it will look weird. So I'm going to go ahead and take steps toward correcting this, getting it closer, much closer to mathematically correct. And I'm going to do it in stages. As you see, I've already did one stage. And after having done some of the correction, if I discover that, it's just looking too weird, I'm not explaining the system very well, but our plane of vision is this flat surface through which we view the world. But if you extend that plane of vision way out here, it gets curved. And it's no longer a plane of vision, it's a curve of vision, a cone of vision perhaps. No, it's not a cone. There's another word that means, there's another thing that means cone. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get it. I'm a little embarrassed that I got so far out of whack. It's not the first time that I've done something like that. Some of my local friends will be glad to tell you, no, he really screwed up one time. There was one time in particular where I was doing a live painting of a big old school building, and I really did screw up. And my friends saw it without a moment's hesitation. That's my monthly painters forum. That's my good friends that tell me the truth. Okay, I'm going to stand back already and just look at that. It's largely corrected. Let me see if it looks acceptable. I think it does. I don't think it's going to irritate us, the viewers. So that's good news. So I'll continue. Now, one of the things that will really, really help me in this whole upper part of this painting, of course, is that it goes very abstract and very messy. And I'm absolutely going to keep it that way, right? How much detail do I need up here? How many hard edges do I need? Very, very little is the answer, because the focal point is down here. And Marcus, if you're listening, yes, you're absolutely correct. Focal point is where the darkest and lightest areas meet. I could talk more. I'm going to leave that at this point. That's a post priori analysis. It's not. Never mind. I don't want to get that deep. I don't want to get that technical today. But Marcus, you're correct. And that's why, as you can see, this and this is definitely a candidate. Hi, sweetie. For focal point, but so is this down here, light, dark. This couple, whoops, I'm sorry, I went off camera there. This is also a candidate for focal point. And this couple, though, I'm going to keep them slightly muted. I don't want them competing. I don't want them to be a strong point, focal point. Hey, Tina Natalie, good evening yourself. Hey, Mark Tooney, good evening. Good to have you on board. All right, I think I'm going to continue, since I'm sort of gotten started then up here in this nosebleed section. I'm going to grab my step ladder and start doing some climbing. You know you're in trouble when you have to use a real ladder to reach the top of your painting. All right, so I'm gonna try to grab some long handle brushes, partly just so that I can reach my paints from way up there on the ladder. Does that make sense? And the first colors I want to get are some of the purple-ish things that are already happening up there. Dioxazine violet, oxide red, which is brown. I feel like I always need to say that just in case somebody's watching who doesn't know what oxide red is. It's a brown, not a red. As an artist, you can't trust the names of these colors. Indian red, red, English red. None of those are red. They're all brown. All right. I'm gonna get way up here now. It needs to be a little lighter. And a little browner. Whoops, now it's too brown. Oh, now it's too purple. You know, I'm always kind of glad to let you guys see that happen, because I know that sometimes students, I suspect that students, when they're mixing paints, they feel kind of stupid because they make mistakes and go, oh, pfft, and they may perhaps languish under the illusion that they're the only ones that make that mistake. Oh my goodness, no, 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 no. Everybody makes that mistake. Just, you grab too much of this or that on your brush, and then it's a mess. Actually, obliterating a window right there. Now here is an interesting point. I didn't mention it a little while ago. That is that the vanishing point, the physical, literal vanishing point in this painting is, you can't see it, is that guy's head down there. The guy that's walking across the street. Conveniently, his head ended up being the vanishing point. I love it. You know, that might be a fun trick to have in a lot of my cityscapes, is put a person, for one thing, it would make my job a little bit easier, because then it'd be easy to come back and find the vanishing point all the time, which is sometimes a challenge. Now, where was it? It gets buried, if you know what I mean. It gets covered up. That might be a kind of a fun trick, wouldn't it? Now, again, I don't want too much energy or light up here, and especially I don't want too many hard edges, because this is all way in the outer fringes. All I'm doing now is messing up some of the lines I made earlier. All right, I think I'm going to stop with the windows right there, come back down to ground level, but hang on, I'll be right back up. I'm going to start now working on the yellow sign, a very prominent part of the painting way up there. So the yellow sign is a bit of an exception to the rule, that is that it's far away from the focal point, yet I'm going to give it considerable pop. And that's because I just think that's what's going to work. And of course, the fact that I've done a small painting, in fact, 3 small sketches, that really helps me with that guess. You know what? Excuse my itchy nose. I'm wondering now where I put my T-square. This would be a good time to make sure that this line right here is really vertical. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll come back and check that later. Okay, quite a bit of sun hitting just the left edge of this sign. The sign also has a typo in it. It's VI. I had 2 T's in it. Just VISTA. All right, for those of you who may be new, or you old timers who haven't been around for a while, let me bring you up to date sort of on a little bit of news as it relates to my career. I think I'm in a shift. I think I'm in the biggest shift. I think. Now, time will tell. It may turn out this is all a false alarm. But at the moment, I don't think it is. I'm in the biggest shift in 15 years. And some of you have heard this story, so you can go make yourself a sandwich while I tell it again. When I started my fine arts career 15 years ago, so just to give you a sense of perspective, I'd been a full-time professional artist off and on for nearly 40 years at that time. Okay? So I was not a novice to the business, to the art of being the business of being an artist. I'd been a freelance illustrator mostly, and a hodgepodge of other things. So I was 50 years old when I decided to take the big plunge into fine arts. That's what I'm doing now. That's doing paintings that go to galleries and sell in galleries and so on and so forth. Okay, that was a big shift. That was 2004, early 2004. At that time, I remember clearly sort of sitting back, stroking my proverbial chin. I do have a real chin, but I also have a proverbial one. That's the one you stroke when you're not really stroking anything. I remember stroking my proverbial chin and having a discussion with myself and saying, okay, how am I going to do this new career? And I saw 2 very clear options in front of me. One option was to start painting masterpieces right out of the gate. Now, what do I mean by masterpiece? I mean paintings that you really spend, considerable time on. 20 hours, say. Let's just take that as a baseline. And I asked myself, if I spend 20 hours per painting, then in the course of a year, I will paint maybe, now some of you are saying 40 hours a week, that's 2 paintings a week, that's 100. And again, you guys are living in la la land. I'd like to live on the planet that you're imagining, but that's not the way it works, because when you're an artist, you have a whole bunch of other stuff you have to do, business, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it'd be 1 painting a week. Not even that. 20 hours, it'd be 40 paintings in a year, let's say, okay? And they would expand beyond 20 hours and so on. Anyway, that was one option. Okay, now this is entirely too neat. Let's mess this up a little bit. Let's mess this up a lot, I should say. I could come straight out of the chute doing masterpieces. And at that point, I had done several masterpieces. Beautiful paintings I was very proud of that were quite realistic and took a long time. To give you some idea, one of the options I seriously considered was doing figurative paintings more or less in the style of William Bouguereau. Okay, Google him. I had done, several years before that, I had done one Bouguereau knockoff. And It's very good. You can see it on my website. I know this sounds really arrogant and it's kind of funny, but it's a slight improvement on the, well, that's not hard because his painting is 100 years old and it's got some oxidization in places and so on. And the fake girl's face is a little weird. Anyway, so I did a slight improvement on a William Bouguereau. And it sounds like I'm being arrogant, but I'm telling you the truth. Of course, I was copying, right? Anyway, I'm getting too far down that rabbit hole. I seriously considered doing serious figurative stuff like William Bouguereau. And if I did that, I can only do 10 paintings a year. You with me? Anyway, and I said, or on the other hand, instead of doing masterpieces, I could just paint like a man on fire. Like a bat out of hell. Which analogy do you want to use here? Man on fire, bat out of hell. Just paint like crazy. Just paint like crazy. And I'd done a good bit of that as well. Of course, my illustration career set me up well for painting in that manner because all of the illustration jobs are done like that. And actually 15 years ago, I had just come off a season where I'd done a whole bunch of 8 by 10 foot paintings, most of them in half a day, some much less than half a day. All right, so I scratched my chin, said, at the end of 10, 15, 20 years, which of these two paths will make me the better artist? And I really didn't have to scratch my chin too long to go, you know what? If I do paint like a man on fire, paint like a bat on fire out of hell, to combine my metaphors. If I paint like a bat on hell, like a bat on fire out of hell, in 10, 15, or 20 years, I'll be a better artist than if I paint masterpieces. I don't know how I knew that exactly. I think it was just logical. Okay, so here we are 15 years later. And you know what I think? I think I was dead on. That's exactly correct. It's because I decided to paint like a man on fire. So I've produced somewhere between 100 and 150 paintings a year for 15 years. An average painting for me takes, 6 hours? 7 is long, 8 is longer. Very rarely do I do a painting more than 8 hours. During the whole 15 years, I'm giving you a lot of my story here, and some of you could care less, but some of you it might be instructive for somebody. During the whole time, I didn't really tell anybody this, it was my inner talk. During the whole time, you know, as when I'm turning over in the middle of the night in bed, I'm thinking, yeah, I might not paint like this forever. This might be a temporary thing. I don't really know. I'm content doing what I'm doing, but it's possible there might be a change coming. Well, lo and behold, this past December, January, just a month and a half ago, for a number of reasons that I won't go into right now, all of a sudden I found myself facing the change. Like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm supposed to shift right now. So I began thinking about it. And this is the first painting that I've done in the new era. I've already got way more than 8 hours in the painting. And I'm going to have a way more before I finish. I have a very different attitude about this painting than I have had about most of my paintings over the last 15 years. My attitude now is, nope, no particular hurry. I'm not a bat out of hell, whatever that expression is. I'm not a snowball in hell. I'm going to get this right. I'm going to take whatever time is necessary to get this painting right. Very different feeling for me. And I got to tell you, just in the last week and a half, I am really enjoying this feeling. I'm surprised. This past week, the reason I didn't do any broadcasting on, Tuesday and Wednesday, is my wife and I went into eastern North Carolina and closed down my relationship with 4 different galleries, collected all my paintings, brought them home. I've been dreading that for years, literally, because they're all friends of mine and so on. At one point, I was in 8 galleries across the state of North Carolina. A smattering of other places, but really, really just North Carolina. So these are all friends, and so that's why I dreaded it a little bit. So at the moment, I have 35 old-ish paintings leaning up in my studio in the house. And they're all from my previous era. And what is really, really, really weird is, no, you can't have any for free. In spite of what I'm about to say. But I don't really care that much for them. It's like, yep, those are my old-fashioned paintings. I don't paint like that anymore. Isn't that weird? A month ago, I did paint that way. Now I don't, and it doesn't bother me a bit. I'm excited. Anyway, that's a lot more story than you guys needed, but it might be instructive for somebody. It's very possible. So I've been trying to describe to people, so what does this new era, what do your paintings look like? The number one answer is real easy. They're bigger. Now, is that because it's a good market for big paintings? The answer is no. Quite the opposite. No, no, no. No gallery wants a painting this big. So just simply by doing a painting this size, I'm pretty much shooting myself in the foot. Here I am again, straightening out messed up letters, getting the spacing right. So selling these painting them is easy. It's going to be selling them is going to be the challenge. But I feel like at age 65, just turned 65 a couple weeks ago, I feel like it is time for me to paint what I want. And I love the subject matter of what I paint. I don't want to change subject matter all that much. And of course, I paint a wide range of subjects, but I do want to paint larger. So who knows? This might be the biggest turning point since 2004. And at the moment, I'm kind of excited about that. And I'm really enjoying this. Enjoying taking time to fix things that sometimes in the past, I would have said, close enough. It's a fast painting, right? Get it out of here. I'm done. Every painting, well, which is 2, that I got into Oil Painters of America is a painting that I did in 4 or 5 hours. So it's possible. It might even do better in competition, so to speak, whatever you want to call them, if I actually put some effort. Now, please understand, maybe this is instructive for some younger painter, I don't know. I am totally glad that I took the course that I did. I believe I was right. The way to improve is not to produce masterpieces, but in fact to paint fast. So I'm glad I did that. But it might be time to change. It might be time to grow up. And so every once in a while I think, doggone it, half the men my age are thinking of slowing down. And I'm thinking about just launching into high gear. Right? I'm just getting started. So I hope the good Lord gives me a good 30 or more years to paint in this new era. That would be great, wouldn't it? Maxfield Parrish, I think, did his last painting when he was 95, I think. Something like that. And it was a good painting. Take that as my inspiration. I'll come back and visit that later. Yesterday, if you watched me, I said a couple times, this is not a Dan Nelsonism, this is a art professorism. This is standard wisdom. Don't finish any one part of the painting completely. Don't take it all the way to finish. Bring the whole painting forward little by little. And that is certainly what I'm doing here. So I just brought that upper right part of the painting forward somewhat. Let's now just continue. Here's a instructor. Oh, sorry, I'm off the picture. Sorry, off the screen. There we go. Okay, I'm down here, and I know you're getting glare. I've done everything I can to try to get this glare. In fact, I'm going to raise you back up again and lower the angle of the camera so that perhaps you'll get a little bit less glare. Let's try that. Okay, hang on. Let me re-aim it now. Yeah, it's a little bit better. My favorite part of any painting, of my paintings, my favorite part of my paintings is the parts that are purely abstract. That usually applies to like tree branches. But in this case, in this painting, it also applies to all of this dark area in here. It is a almost purely abstract series of blobs. And I say almost purely abstract because, in fact, you can see little hints of things, like a doorway here. And I am indeed paying some attention to the photograph, but not much. I love just letting the viewer's eyes turn all of this into whatever they want to. So I have to strike a real delicate balance between suggesting images, windows, grates, air conditioners, on the outside of a building, all the stuff that's on all buildings. So I'm going to have fun with that, and I'm going to take my time. Right now I've got a very dirty purple, dark dirty purple on my brushes. And I'm responding very much to the color that is already on the painting, on the canvas. I want to be careful not to create hard edges over here. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about hard edges, shall we? Hard edges consist, or let me say, the hardness of an edge is determined by at least two things, not one thing. And this would be easy to get this wrong. So let me help instruct you a little bit. This is something I've worked on periodically over the years. A hard edge consists of actually two elements. One is the hardness of the edge. In other words, like you can see, here's the ruler, and here is not the ruler, and the line between ruler and not ruler is a hard edge. Does that make sense? That's one of the things. That's what most people think. Most people would think, well, that's it. That's all there is. A hard edge is made by a hard edge, but that is not true. The hardness of an edge is determined by two factors. One is the literal hardness of the edge, lack of fuzz, lack of irregularity, just boom. And in combination with that, contrast in value. So, for instance, I have just put a number of marks up here, and I'm sorry that you probably can hardly even see them, which, by the way, should tell you something, right? That is, that they're not very hard edges, because you can't even see them. But in fact, they are quite hard edges that I put in there. But what? But they're almost exactly the same color and value as what was already there, which makes it a not hard edge. Now again, some scientific person might go, hard is hard, hard means hard. Yeah, give me all the science you want. That's not what we're doing. When we're artists, we're talking with visual realities, not scientific realities. Doesn't matter whether it's technically a hard edge or not. What matters is, does it look like a hard edge? And the hardness of an edge visually is determined by two things: the hardness of the edge and the degree of contrast, especially value, but really values and color. Okay, really important to keep that in mind, because sometimes you can get away with inserting some hard edges, but they don't read hard, because that's what I'm doing right here, because they're very consonant as opposed to dissonant, very close in color and value. That can get you out of a few scrapes sometimes, just knowing that. And I also have some idea where I'm going with some of this. And I know that when I finish this layer and then do the broken color layer, I'm not done with this painting. I'm going to do at least one glaze over the entire canvas. And it's very possible I might even do 2 glazes. I just see something right now that I think I'm going to change. I think I'm going to take this reflection, because this pole is actually about 5 or 10 feet back from this traffic light, and putting that reflection on there is confusing that. You know what? If you don't mind, I'm going to run into my studio, which isn't far away, and get the right knife for that job. So if you'll just hang tight, I'm not going to pause the broadcast. Stay there. It'll just take me a second. Out of the garage, into the hallway, into my studio. There we go. Got the knife. Back in the hallway, back in the garage. There, are we still here? All right. And it's worth, because this is a I was going to say a weapon. This is a tool worth having in your toolkit. We typically call it an X-Acto knife, but as you can see, it's not a straight blade, it's a curved blade. And the curvedness of the blade is paramount. Now, if I'm out plein air painting and I can't run and get this, I can do the same thing with my little pocket knife. Just it's not as sharp as this, of course. Okay, now the reason the curve is important is because I can scrape this canvas without any danger of gouging. See, if this was a straight blade, this would be very difficult to do, because I'd be creating, or in danger of creating, grooves and gouges in the canvas, right? So there, I wanted to show you that, just so you're aware of that little trick of the trade tool there. And now that I scraped off, as you can see, there's little bits of white here. And I just color it in, so to speak, and we're good to go. Okay, I think I've sort of been hesitating. I'm going to move this a little bit. That's as high as it goes. I want to tackle now, again, in the interest of keeping the whole painting coming forward in a synchronous manner, This couple is way behind, and the whole painting, basically from the bench down, is quite far behind the rest of the painting. So let's take some time to bring that up. Now, as you can imagine, there is not much detail down here at all. Again, it would be a huge mistake to start throwing detail and hard edges into this part of the painting. You can see what's happening. This is a curb, right? It's a curved curb. Here's a crosswalk, here's another crosswalk, and there's light coming in from the left. Now, according to my sketch and according to the photograph both, this area needs to be a little bit lighter than it is right now. And I'm sort of, I've got a little indecision going as to whether I should do that with hard edges or should I, no, I should, I just made up my mind. I have to move this over because I have to try to get by. Hang on. There's no room in this garage for the two of us. Come over here to get some brushes. Today was a fun day. I went to one of my semi-annual trips to one of my favorite stores, which is Harbor Freight. There's Harbor Freight, Northern Tool. There's a number of places. It's like discount cheap tools, and that's where I buy these cheap chip brushes. This was $6 for 36 brushes. Do the math. 60 cents each, is something like that? I'm not sure. I'm not going to do the math. I'll let you do it. Anyway, so Yahoo. So I have all these brand new brushes. That's kind of exciting. My favorite brush in the whole world is these super inexpensive chip brushes. Isn't that funny or what? Oh my goodness. My favorite brush is the cheapest brush you can possibly even buy. That's hilarious. How many times does that happen? Not very often. All right, and now I have to move my tab array. That's fancy word for a workstation. And get out my step stool and sit on it now. Oh yes, how are we in the right? Yep, we're pointing the right way. Ugh. All right, so this is back to the fuzz layer. Now, by doing this fuzz, that guarantees, if you will, that I am at least 2 steps back, if not more than 2, from being finished with this part of the painting. Here's why. This is really important. If you've never heard this before, I want you to hear this today. The style of brushing that I'm doing right now, the common artsy name for it is scumbling, right? Scumbling. This is what scumbling is. It's when you have a brush with opaque paint on it. You can't scumble with transparent paint. That's called glazing. You can only scumble with opaque paint. But, or you could say dry brush. It's parallel to dry brush in watercolor. Scumbling is rubbing the brushes over the canvas so that they make that scumbling noise. Listen. The word scumbling is at least mildly onomatopoetic for you English majors, okay? Why do we call it scumbling? Because that's what it sounds like. Scumble, 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 scumble. Okay, that's the point I want to make, is that scumbling is a perfectly valid, appropriate, legal technique for painting. But there's a big but coming. Can you tell? But we, human beings, we do not enjoy particularly, we do not enjoy seeing the scumbled texture over much of a painting. It's a legal way to paint, but we don't like seeing it very much. I hope that's making sense. What scumbling is good for is achieving appropriate value and color quickly. That's exactly what I'm doing right here. That's why I'm doing it, because I want to lighten this, all of this area down here. I want to lighten it considerably, and if I did this with opaque or thick paint, it would take me forever, and would, in my world also, while I'm at it, ruin the feel, the look of my painting. I don't want to plaster a lot of thick paint down here. So scumbling is like a shorthand way of achieving. Is our sound okay? My monitor's a little bit iffy. I think we're okay. So scumbling is a fast, shorthand way of achieving correct color and value. And that's what I do in my fuzz layer, is in fact scumbling. And one of the main things I do in this fuzz layer is get correct local color. I just didn't do enough of it down here. Okay? Okay, so let me back up. Scumbling is legal, but we don't like seeing it. That's just the blunt of it right there. Scumbling is legal and it's fast, but it's ugly. There we go. Scumbling is legal, but it's ugly. There we go. Now somebody, again, I know somebody's going to argue and say, I don't think it's ugly. Well, you're living on the wrong planet. Sorry. It's just not, you can get away with a little bit of it. But this does not, this is like a different painting from that one up there. It's just not a pleasant look. I'm just going to say, trust me at this point. So, all that long buildup is so I can say, so when you do scumble, which sometimes you have to do because you have not got months and months to finish painting, after you scumble, you come back and do what I'm going to call real painting on top of the scumbling. What is real painting? Real painting is discernible brush strokes, a thickness of paint that is pleasant to look at, to cover up. Of course not all of this scumbling, no. But I'm going to come back and do real painting. That is where I take a brush, say like this, and I pick up a slab of paint and I go, and I leave a stroke of discernible thick paint. And that's how you then rectify, if you will, the mess that you made while you were scumbling. And I hope that was clearer to you than it was to me. Scumbling is a good technique, but it's ugly. So it has to be followed up. It's similar, there's another rule in painting that's very much like that, and that is, anytime you paint dark, anytime you put any dark paint, what is dark? Okay, wait. By dark, I mean darker than what was there before you put it on. So this is a fairly light area, so if I put something dark here, it would be transparent, of course, then I'm not finished the painting, because anytime you put dark down, you have to follow up with light. And that's not a Dan Nelsonism, that's an art professorism. It's just that I treat it as sacrosanct. That is a very, very important rule in my book. That is, Sometimes I say it darks first, lights last. And some of you have heard that expression. That's a good one, and it breaks down to every step of the painting process. So if you put some dark down, you have to follow with the light. So scumbling is a lot like that. If you put scumbling down, you have to follow up. Now, I'm going to stand back here. By the way, it's raining outside tonight. Let me take a look at that. Yeah. I think that's close to what I want here. Of course, this couple, they essentially completely lost their feet, and that's fine with me. I'll give them their feet later. And surprising as it may sound, I actually, in this treatment here, am not that far from the photograph. Here's my photograph way over here. Can you see it right here? There's the area just lightened. The crosswalks are a slightly different position. My painting on aluminum treats it a little bit better. Anyway, so that's helping. These are both helping me a great deal. I am definitely paying attention. I'm definitely paying attention. Now, if this is this light, then this edge of this building, the brick, the part of the building that has sunshine on it, can get considerably lighter. So I'm going to do the same scumbling trick again. Ooh, I think that's too light. Yeah. So I'm going to just mix up a darker orange brown and go on top of what I just did there, which is a violation, right? You're not supposed to do dark on top of light. But in this case, I'm just blending it all together as if it were one layer, not two. Okay, soft edges, right? I do not want a razor sharp edge over here. Everybody's eye will tell them without any hard work at all that this is the edge of a wall. They know it's a brick wall. They know it's a razor sharp brick concrete edge, right? Mortar and brick edge. I do not need to help them with that. Therefore, it would be a mistake for me to spell it out to them as if their eyes were stupid. I've never said it that way before. That's a pretty good way to put it. Everybody knows what that is. I don't need to give a razor sharp edge, drawing lots of attention way over here to the edge of the painting. Nope. Just a very soft, fuzzy edge will get the job done and let the viewer supply the hardness of that edge in their own mind, which is where the aesthetic pleasure comes from. When the viewer, not the painter, not the artist, when the viewer finishes the painting, that's a big part of the aesthetic buzz that we can get from painting. I put a little, like, I don't know what they call it, outdoor wainscoting ledge on the building that actually is not there in real life, but I feel like it ought to be. So I've added it. Let's do just a little bit more down here, a little bit more scumbling. And again, I hope you get the chance to come back and see how I treat this. Now, let me check this angle here. Vanishing point is this man's head. What a great trick. I'm going to remember that. I'm not sure I've ever done that before, honestly. All these years of painting cityscapes, I'm not sure I intentionally put the vanishing point on somebody's head. Tickles me. As you can see, I'm easily tickled, eh? All right. Now I know that these angles are correct. And again, more scumbling, so that means all of this I need to come back. Now there's two things I'm actually going to do to rectify the over scumble, the too much scumbling effect of this area. There's two things I'm going to do. One is I'm going to come in and do some dark details, probably with pencils, maybe with oil sticks, and and dark transparent paint. So I'm going to do dark details and, of course, light opaque highlights. So there'll be at least 2 layers of treatment on top of this scumbling. But what the scumbling has done, I hope this is clear, is it's gotten me, as I like to say, within shouting distance of in values. Am I still on camera over there? Yep, okay. Let me do this other crosswalk here. And yeah, these lines have to point right at that guy's head, right up there. And let me look at the photograph. I'm not copying the markings exactly. I'm going with, I think, a more traditional crosswalk paint job. And once I got started this way, I decided to stick with it even after I discovered, oh, that's not what the street looks like. But I'm going to go with it anyway. So these are, of course, supposed to be white paint, right? And as you can see, I'm using a very, very, not at all white, very, very dark. Just a little, and I'll come back and make that more contrasty later on. Now, let's decide what to do with this curb here. Literally the concrete curb, I haven't quite decided. It's way too dark here, but I may just save that and fix it in the finishing layer, if you will. All right. Oh, let me fix one thing before I go. One more thing, perhaps I should say. I discovered that this woman's short white coat, and that is what she's wearing in the photograph. There's a woman there with a short white coat, but it's a little bit too short. So let me try to fix that really quickly. Just with some dirty white paint. Yeah, bring it down about ½ an inch or less. Now these two figures, of course, need quite a bit of work compared to all the rest of the painting, but that'll have to come another day, maybe tomorrow. Now, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm teaching an art class in Southport, North Carolina. And I hope to broadcast quite a bit. Love to broadcast as much as possible. And I will tell the people there, I've had some people in the past, students, complain, hey, we had to pay for this, how come they get it free? Well, the people that are present, but my priority, if I broadcast, will be my students there, not you guys. But you can derive some benefit from watching me teach. And the people that can derive the most benefit from that broadcast are, in fact, the students who were there, because they can go back and watch it again, because I guarantee I'm going to give them way more information than they could possibly absorb in one 2-day class. All right, I'm going to end this broadcast right here. I'm happy with the progress I've made. Long ways to go, but it's kind of nice not to be in a hurry and feel like I have to finish the dang thing in 6 hours. Oh, let me look at your comments before I go, and then I'll rush in the house for supper. I've been paged. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the encouragement, my friend. R. Taylor, did I miss something? Did you just put acrylic over oil? The answer is no. Everything now is oil. Yep. How many sides does a circle have? Exactly. And inside and outside. You're exactly right, Michael. Brilliant. All right, thanks, guys. I've enjoyed your company very much, as always. And if you like what I do, comment, subscribe, share. If you don't like what I do, Keep that to yourself. Bad joke. I keep saying it over and over. Do not come to me for fresh jokes, okay? Fresh jokes are outside my gift mix. Listen to me for the same old tired jokes over and over. That's just the way my personality works. Okay, love you. Bye.